And not just Dre and Leah. We know Dre and Leah, they're rock stars. But how about the musicians, man? I mean, I had to go there and dap them all up. The bass player coming out doing his riffs. I thought it was like Prince, I can't wait for that concert we got going in heaven. But I told him, if I preach ain't good today, you made it better. They, what an amazing thing. Nicole and Daniel preaching fire from heaven up here. I don't know, I'm fired up. Maybe we said, come fill this place, and God took it serious. Careful what you pray for, right? And Nicole said, nobody will come to your house. The lie detector test said that is a lie. It's usually, and she didn't know, she wasn't lying, but usually it's Joe or I, we tend to go out with those new guest bags. We do hope you'll just do new at GMC, not the @ sign, but at.org. It's a way to connect. We don't spam you. She was right. We don't. You start to get the weekly e-note just to know what's going on in our church. It's a little devotional Joe and I do, like a pick-me-up during the week. And here's what's going on. If you don't want that, you just hit stop. It'll never come again. But Joe and I do deliver them, and sometimes I get caught. But we put our special ops forces on. We usually go up. Usually my wife's my getaway driver. I run up and put it on the door and go. But we hope you do that to connect. Because Tony Fitzgerald's a member of our vision team. We spent this weekend, that's why we're all a little fired up, with 35 leaders. I'm the only old person and my wife. Everybody else, young Gen X, mostly millennials and Gen Z, dreaming about the future of Garfield. Where is God leading us? So we're all a little fired up today on that. And I love our series, Living in Hope. Living in Hope. In fact, Onia Quoby kicked us off on Baptism Sunday, if you were here, and she read the key verse for this whole series when Peter, Peter who was broken, who failed Jesus every bit as much as Judas, but he wept about it, but he came back. He hung in there. Don't give up after an overnight disaster. Weep bitterly, like Peter did, but come back. Put yourself in a position. And God, Jesus came and ministered to him. And Peter said, now we have this living hope. I love that term, living hope, meaning it's not just hope out there somewhere, over the rainbow. Dorothy sang about it. But no, right here. I quoted in my e-note, I didn't quote this at the early service, but there was a British bishop that was asked, when you look at what's happening in the world, and it was bad at that time, like it's bad at this time, and they said to him, are you an optimist or a pessimist? And he said, I am neither an optimist or a pessimist. Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. And now, if you don't know what that means, pray about it. Because it's the power of God's resurrection that gives us a living hope. And the scripture that Daniel and Nicole read for us is a foundational scripture for me. I'm really interested. I went back over 22 years. I've only preached about it at Garfield one time. In my very first church, I was only there 5.5 years, and I preached 5 times on it. But it's a foundational scripture, and to me, it's the relationship between a living hope and faith, right? And if you want to know what that is, look at the 11th chapter of Hebrews is, I married a woman from Canton, so anybody been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, right? Like you go through the Hall of Fame and you see all these great players through the years, the Basketball Hall of Fame or the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And in Hebrews 11 is kind of a faith Hall of Fame. The writer takes us through by faith, Noah did this. By faith, Abel did this. By faith, Abraham and Sarah did this. By faith, Moses did this. Giving us all that. And then it looks at us and talks about unnamed people who kept their faith when the empire was killing them and said, now you strengthen your feeble knees and raise your weak hands when you are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses and go live by faith. But in the beginning of the chapter, before that whole roll call, there's a definition of faith, and it's tied to hope. Ready? Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for. Hope fuels faith. My grandmother used to say, faith puts legs up under what you believe. Faith is hope in action. Faith is not a noun, it's a verb. We don't have faith, we faith. We walk by faith and not by sight. And actually, this word assurance, it really means, Pastor Steve, reality. It's concrete. I hope that chair can hold my weight, but when I sit on it, that's faith. Right? And so the New Living Translation says it this way. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It's the evidence of things we cannot see. I don't care where you are with Jimmy Carter politically or whatever, but man, that man was, he took, heaven, the opposite, for being a born-again Christian when he was elected to office, because that was not in vogue back then. And I don't know if you noticed about Jimmy Carter, we know he worked with Habitat. He taught Sunday school in Georgia every single Sunday until he died. And Jimmy Carter once talked about his faith, and he said, I came to faith during a sermon. He said, I don't remember what it was about. I don't remember the sermon itself. I just remember the title. And the title was, if you are ever convicted of being a Christian, will there be enough evidence to convict you? See, that's faith. Is it lived out? Is it walking, right? And that's why Jesus sometimes, during crises, the disciples were out in the boat and the storm came up and Jesus is asleep. Do you know God can be so calm when we are so panicked? He's just sleeping in the back of the boat and they wake him up and they, don't you care? Like asking Jesus if he cared. Well, let's see, I'm going to die. I'm going to be beaten. I'm going to go to the cross. I'm going to be dead and buried, descended into hell. What do you mean, do I care? Right? Don't you care that we're dying? And Jesus said these words. He said to them a lot of times. It kind of seems condescending, but hang in there with me. He would say, where is your faith? He didn't say, well, you should have faith. Let me give it to you. Zzz. No, he said, where is it? Is it in your shoe? Is it in your locker? Like, I know you know me. You've seen what I've done. Where's the tangible evidence of what you're hoping for? Where is it? Paul said that with Timothy. If you read his letters to Timothy, Timothy was having a faith crisis. Paul was in prison, and he was like, he was having anxiety attacks. Read it, it's real. His stomach was bothering him, everything. And Paul wrote to him to encourage him. He was his understudy, and he said, I know your faith. I saw it in your mother, I saw it in your grandmother, and I know it's in you. Now stir up the gifts of God that are within you. Because God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and a strong mind. We ought to cheer for that one, that God gave us that, not the fear. And this story in Numbers 13 is great. Let me just kind of recap it, right? The story of Numbers 13. Here's what happened. God delivered the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, did signs and wonders, 3 centuries of oppression that these people are under. But God intervened in God's time, brought them out of Egypt, brought Egypt to its knees, drowned their enemies in the sea, brought them into the wilderness, and they were all praising God. No, they were complaining. I did a whole series on whinings in the wilderness. We don't relate to that, right? Like, oh, we don't have water. Okay, I'll bring water from a rock. Oh, we don't have food. Well, I'll give you manna from heaven. Oh, but we don't want carbs. We want protein. Okay, I'll bring, quails, right? Like God is dealing with them, giving them what they needed when they needed it, all through the wilderness. Takes them to Sinai, says, hey, here's some directional principles. Don't kill, don't steal, keep me first. Be nice to your mom and dad. Don't lie. Don't steal from your neighbor. I mean, just basics. Let's do that. And then I'm going to give you a new land. I'm going to give you a new home. It's full of milk and honey. And if you read the story, they go right up to where this passage was, 1 mile from the promised land. 1 mile. And Moses says, okay, let's do strategic planning. It's kind of like what we do with our vision team. We get these 35 young leaders that are going to lead us into 2030. And you don't say, how young are they? Younger than me. That's young, because I'm old. But we spent the whole weekend, all day Saturday, Friday, just dreaming and vision. And Moses said, go into the new land, check it out. 12 of them he sent in. And see what it's like. A, is it a good place? B, should we go? Like God sent us here. So they go in the land, 12 spies, 12 strategic planners. They go out there, and they come back, and there's a majority and a minority report. How many of you know there's always a majority and a minority report? And the majority comes back, 10 of the 12, and they said, look, well, 12 of them were united. Hey, the land is amazing. The fruit, in fact, have you ever seen there's little pictures of them bringing fruit out of the land? I've been to Jericho. I've led 2 tours here. I've led 5 tours to Israel in my life. And it's true, if you go to a farmer's market, they don't call it that, in Jericho, the watermelons look like basketballs. The oranges look like watermelons. I mean, grapefruit, sorry. The grapefruit, that was a lie. There's no watermelons in Israel. I'm going to get fact-checked, and people are going to go, no, that pastor is full of it. I am full of it. But the grapefruits look like basketballs. The oranges look like grapefruits. It's a very, very, they call it the Fertile Crescent. That's what it's known as. In the middle of a desert, you have this Fertile Crescent, and it's very fertile. So they come back, and they said, no, the land is everything God said it would be, but there's giants in the land. Their cities are fortified. In fact, you know, their people are huge, and we look like grasshoppers in our own eyes. Hello? Grasshopper complex. They're going to take our women, our children. They're going to devour us. They're going to kill us. 10 of them said we can't go. The minority report, Caleb and Joshua, who said, wait a minute. God told us to go. And if God, who brought us out of Egypt, says, I'm going to bring you in, shouldn't we trust God? And you know what the majority did? They always do. Conspiracy theories. This is before social media. They stirred up a new report. Y'all are like dead bones today. You know this happens. They stirred up a report, and they went out through the masses, and they wanted to stone Joshua and Caleb. Don't preach that faith stuff to me. We saw what it looks like in there, right? And guess who won? Moses goes before God, and he's grieving. What do I do? And God said, read the Numbers 13, 14, 15. God said, these people are holding me in contempt. It was like 1 Samuel 8, if you ever read, everybody looked around, they saw Egypt had a king, and Babylon had a king, and Assyria had a king. And people said, give us a king. And Samuel's like, no, we got God. We got the King of Kings. No, give us a king like the other nations. And Samuel went to God, and God basically said, read 1 Samuel 8. He said, give them what they want, but tell them what comes with it. There's a whole lot of corruption. Read it. There's a whole lot of embezzlement. There's autocracy. There's wars. There's big egos. There's narcissism. Give them what they want. But Samuel, they haven't rejected you. They've rejected me. And that's basically what happened in Numbers. He said, these folk, what do I have to do to show them how much I love them? Brought them out of Egypt. But he said, you know what? They don't want to go in. I don't want to go in with them. So God said, let all of them stay out here in the desert and die. That's true. Them and their children, their generation. But we'll go back with Caleb and Joshua who trusted me. And that's why Israel wandered 40 years in the desert. Did you know that? They could have went in. But no. It's too great. It's too problematic. Hope fuels faith, and faith helps us overcome our fears. Amen? That's what God is trying to do. Put what you believe with legs on it. Trust in me. Be different than the world. That's why the word saints in the Bible, you know what it literally meant? We think saints means Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King Jr., But saints literally used to mean the Pope, not today because Pope doesn't know anything. But anyhow, what saints met is the set apart people. People who are set apart. They're different. Paul says in Romans, I'm an apostle set apart for the good news of God, right? That we're to be different, and that faith fuels our fears. I was looking at what is America afraid of right now? Well, Chapman University does a survey they've done for 15 years now, and every October, so there'll be a new one coming out in 2026, you can say Chapman University, but October 2025, the last one done, here's what the top fears of American people were, and they do an extensive survey. Number one, corrupt government officials. My God, if that's our number one fear, we're going to be like the deer. Right? Corrupt government officials. Number two, people I love becoming seriously ill. Like, we're more afraid than corrupt government officials than people we love becoming seriously ill. Number three, economic financial collapse. Big fear. Number four, cyber terrorism. I don't wake up worrying about that. You? I don't know. Some things are out of my pay grade. Number five, people I love dying. That was clear down to number five. Number six, U.S. being involved in another world war. Hello. Number seven, the climate. Will we have safe drinking water? Will my kids have to walk around in hazmat suits? The next one, Russia using nuclear weapons. So the Cold War is still invading us in 2026. The last one, that the government might be tracking my personal information. That's what America are worried about. 2/3 of America say they're more worried about running out of money than dying. And Lifeway did a study on people of faith, churchgoers. In fact, they only polled people who said they were active in churches, and here was their top three. Number one, AI. That's not a bad fear, because if you watch science fiction movies, the robots always take over the world, right? You guys are afraid. You're in church. AI. Number two, divisions in the world. We're all concerned about that. Garfield, we're trying to do something about that. Third one got me, that people of faith that go to church all the time are afraid about the future. Where's your faith, Jesus will say. In fact, many of them said they don't believe God could do anything about their non-church friends. These are people that go to church all the time, right? And we're called with our hope to transmit into faith that gives us an ability to face those fears. And in fact, Revelation 21, I was looking at it, when the vision of the end, it says people are thrown into the fires of hell. Guess who's thrown in there? Murderers, yeah, we get that. Sorcerers, witchcraft, we get that. Vile people, we get that. You know what the number one on the list is of who's thrown in the lake of fire? Cowards. And the faithless. Look at Revelation 21:13. I went, like that one hits close to home. I don't always have nerves of steel, do you? Right? But God said, I have a vision for your life. I have a vision for my church. I have a vision for my world. Right? And Jeremiah prophesied during a time when Babylon was coming in and destroying the whole country and tearing down the empire. And this is what God said. Don't listen to Chip and those preachers out there that are preaching doom and gloom. It's a lie. They're prophesying to you, but not in my name. I did not send them. For surely I know the plans I have for you. Plans for your what? Welfare, not for harm, to give you a future. Somebody shout that with, yeah. But I learned going into ministry, I had a pastor mentor who helped me, who said there is a vision, still a vision for the appointed time. It doesn't lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. There's an African from Kenya who I sat under at a big conference. And he said, you know what? God is not interested in helping you with your plans for your life. Oh, he's very interested in helping you with his plans for your life. There's a vision God has. And my pastor, when I first went into ministry, he said, beware of some people and some things and some spiritual forces that'll try to rob you of vision. The first one, he said, are vision vipers. He said 3 of them, I'll shout them to you: vision vipers, vision vampires, vision vultures. Vision vipers lay in the grass. They're like, it was a serpent, right? Was more crafty with Adam and Eve. And I thought about this. I was telling my wife this morning, the serpent didn't say to Adam and Eve, did God tell you not to eat of the tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge? He exaggerated the lie. Did God say you couldn't eat from any tree of the garden? Right? Exaggeration. I saw a TV show with Tiffany Haddish who said that old thing about fear, F-E-A-R, the acronym is false evidence appearing. You guys are good. You saw the same show. False evidence appearing real, right? The devil is always going to lie. He is the father of lies. There's going to be lying voices in you that will be in the ways to say, what do you mean, God? Can you imagine Joseph? Remember, Joseph had dreams of greatness, and he was stuffed in a cistern by his brothers. You don't think Satan showed up at that moment and said, oh, I thought you were going to be great. I thought God had a plan for your life. Don't die in the hole. Don't die in the well. Don't believe the lies, right? There are great lies. You know, and all of us are clinging to life rafts. We're clinging to things that we have to have. I need my looks. I need my weight a certain thing. I need my career. I need money. I need my kids to be okay. One psychologist says those are life rafts, and we're clinging to them. And if our ultimate life raft is anything but God, it's going to be challenged. And if you want to know what your life raft is, follow your fears. What are you most afraid about? If people are more afraid about running out of money than they are about dying, follow your fears. Their life raft is their personal security and comfort. But only if we make our life raft God. I was told this about idolatry. Idolatry is never bad things. Everybody thinks, oh, idolatry, it's pornography, it's adultery, it's greed. No, idolatry, Tim Keller told me, are good things. Family, children, career, that you make ultimate things. And when those things are attacked, you're afraid, right? Follow your fears. That's the vision vipers. They're going to lie to you. The vision vampires, they're going to come and suck life out of you, right? Oh, you ever hear people say things like, that'll never work? We tried that before. Didn't work out so well, right? Thomas Edison, who discovered a light bulb, many don't know it, he was searching for a bulb that would shine at night because his mom died when she needed an emergency appendectomy, and they couldn't do the surgery at night because they couldn't see, and they were waiting for the sun to rise so they could do the surgery, and she died at night. And Edison he took his curse and turned it into a call and said, I'm going to find a bulb that burns at night. And he had 1,500, 1,700 failed experiments. And all of his funders were going to pull their funding because they said, this won't work. You're not making any progress. He said, progress? I know 1,700 things that won't work. Don't let vision vampires suck the life out of your vision. And the last one is vision vultures. How many know vultures don't come at you like T-Rex? T-Rex comes and just eats you. Vultures do what? Pick, 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 pick. You got those folk in your life? Pick, 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 pick. Right? These are things that will destroy the vision that God has for your life. So what do we do about it? I got 6 minutes. I might take 10. One, take what you know about God and apply it to your situation. Do you hear what Caleb and Joshua said? We have seen God's glory. God said, you've seen my glory and the signs that I did in Egypt. My pastor used to tell me, Warren Booker, he was an amazing pastor who kicked my butt into ministry, and he said, carry a couple things around in your pocket that you know God did. Right? Booker, when he came to our first church, he got up in the pulpit, swear to God, this true story. He got up in the pulpit and he announced himself to our congregation. We were only like 70 folks. He said, look, I was born black in Mississippi in 1940. So I ain't afraid of hell. I was born there. And I ain't afraid of any of you. So let's get to work. I looked at my wife. I'm in my 20s. I'm like, what do you say? But you know, when we would go through stuff in the church, he would look at me and he'd say, I'd like, oh, Doc, this is bad. He said, this ain't bad. I've seen bad. This ain't bad. See, he remembered the fire hoses and the billy clubs and the corrupt police officers and the brutality when he marched as a 14-year-old down. He remembered the lynchings of friends. And he said, if God got me through that, God will get me through this. What are you fretting over and forgetting that your salvation is a miracle? That you were a sinner saved by grace. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. You want to know the difference between a religious person and a Christian? You ask a religious person, are you a Christian? Yep, go to church, give my money, serve in the soup kitchen. You ask a Christian if you're a Christian? Yeah, it was 1,000,000 to 1 shot. I was a broke person. I'm going to lose my job if I preach like I want to preach. But Jesus cut me a sweet deal. How many of you here know that your salvation is a miracle? Joshua and Caleb remembered that God brought us. What did he do? Did God bring us out of Egypt to not let us into Canaan? Right? That was their perspective. Remember what God has done in your life. Paul was a Pharisee. He was a religious terrorist. He was a racist, a misogynist, a Jewish nationalist, a country nationalist. But Jesus showed him a different way, and he became the apostle to the very people he hated. And he said, think about God. I want to know him and the power of his resurrection. And in Philippians, he said, brothers and sisters, whatever's true, whatever's honorable, whatever's just, whatever's pure, whatever's pleasing, whatever's commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things and do them. And the God of peace will be with you always. Take what you know about God and apply it to your situation. And don't forget, the old gospel song said, he didn't bring me this far to leave me. And the second thing, stand firm. Stand firm. Stand on some solid ground. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, Paul said, so you'll be able to withstand on that evil day, and having prevailed against everything, stand firm. Pastor used to tell me, if you can't run, jog. If you can't jog, walk. If you can't walk, stand. Just hold your ground. Do you know that the majority report said, let's go back to Egypt? See, when you panic, you'll go back to old habits. You'll go back to stuff God freed you from because you're in a mess. And God just says, just stand there. They who wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. Sometimes the miraculous will come. Sometimes you mount up wings like eagles and soar through it. Other times, you'll kind of be in a marathon and run. And other times, you just put one foot in front of the other and you walk and not faint. Stand. Hang in there. When I was with the Vision team this weekend, I told them about September 1st, 1990. September 1st, 1990 is ground zero for me. You know why? This is what happened. I know. Yeah. Here. I knew if this sermon sucked, if I just put that up there, y'all be, oh, Chip, this sermon is so boring, but that's such a great picture. Yeah, I outkicked my coverage. I did. But September 1st, 1990, guess what? There were giants in the land. Terry and I got together about 2.5, 3 years earlier in the 80s. Do you know they have polled America every 10 years to see, they pull it on everything, but on favorability, unfavorability of interracial marriage, stain the blood, mongrelization of the races, the Klan called it. When we got together, 10% of America was in favor of interracial marriage. 10%, right? Today, it's 92% because before you cheer, I'm always looking for the 8%. If you're here today, I love you. You're my brother and sister. Don't knock on my door. But seriously, the needle's moved. Today, did you know 2 out of every 5 marriages that happen in America today? In 2016, it was 1 out of 5. It's moved up to 2. 2 out of every 5 marriages that happen in America are interracial. They're happening. So all this make America white again, good luck with that. You can't deport all of us, right? But Terry and I got together, and there were giants in the land. And I was in the construction industry, and people weren't for it. And I had people thinking, because I wasn't with Jesus, I've been very clear, my wife danced me back into the arms of Jesus. The night we met, we've never been apart since that night. I got great stories, man. I won't tell them all to you. But, you know, there were people saying, this won't work, this won't work. I love the racist one of, but what about the kids? Anybody met my kids? Pretty cool, right? You know, don't believe the vision vipers. Did God say, you know? Yeah, God did say. Fell in love with this woman. First night I met her. And at our wedding, our families were uncomfortable. Terry's family, it wasn't race with our families. It really wasn't. Terry's family happened to be Jehovah's Witnesses, and her parents were till the day they died. And if any of you are like those evangelical terrorists that say, well, Jehovah's Witnesses can't get into heaven. Thank you. I want to say another you. Two things. If my in-laws are not in heaven, I don't want to go. And the second thing is, if they don't get in, I'll never get in. These are the most devout people I knew. But it was a little bit of outside the tribe, and, you know, I don't know if that's a good thing. And then my mom, no racism. Honestly, she was so pure. She was going to college, to black churches with her college friends in the 1940s. So this is the route that I fell from. But Terry was a single mom. I was a CEO of a corporate, and my sisters, who were 10 and 13 years older than me, said, hey, when we met our husbands, Jesus Christ could have come back from the grave, and he wouldn't have been good enough for mom. So now I'm her baby boy. Mother Mary wasn't good enough. And my mom thought Terry might have nefarious ideas. And I said, Mom, I'm selling the business to go into ministry. If she's got nefarious ideas, she sucks at it, because I'm going to be broke. And my mom and my wife became best friends and traveled the world together. And her family adopted me. But at our wedding that day, look how happy we are. My mom sat in the front pew and cried so loud that the preacher had to up his voice. And Terry's family weren't allowed to come. They couldn't even come into the church because their teaching was if they walked into church, they would like melt like Dracula. Yeah, but Terry and I, we were living in a different reality. We had a living hope. Even our own family couldn't stain that day. And we were so excited. And you think we had it bad. I had to preach in 2022 in Virginia Beach, and Terry and I went on a hunt because we had to find the gravesite of these people. You know anything about Mildred and Richard Loving? Yeah. I was first grade, and it was illegal for me to marry my wife. But these folk, we think we had giants. They faced those giants. They got thrown in jail for marrying each other. In fact, if you've ever seen the movie, if you haven't read it, it's great because it's pretty historically accurate. I've studied it. But the ACLU that represented them in the Supreme Court against anti-miscegenation laws of being able to marry interracially, they said to Richard, this blue-collar dude, they said, do you want to go to the Supreme Court? He said, nope, no interest. Don't blame him. But they said, well, do you want to say anything to him? He said, yeah, tell him I love my wife. My wife always says, do you think that their name Loving was by accident? Sometimes God's not so subtle, right? And I don't know about you, but Terry and I, you know, we did that. My pastor, my chaplain from Colgate preached our wedding. And my groomsmen were kind of uncomfortable, and they were acting up. Everybody was uncomfortable. And he said, well, you know, you guys are acting immature. I said, it doesn't bother me. He said, I don't care if it bothers you. It might be bothering Terry. And he got up in the pulpit, he said, these two are like Abraham and Sarah. They're going to a land they know not, and they're trusting God. And they're calling the rest of us to grow up. I'm standing here 38 years later, friends. Some of you have been with me for 20 years. How do you think it's going? Whose report will you believe, the Bible said? Like I had a majority report, but I had a best man. May you always have a Caleb or a Joshua in your life. My buddy Kevin, who was my best man, he's in heaven, died suddenly in 2012. We played basketball against each other and together since we were in the 7th grade. Everybody else was uncomfortable. You know what Kevin said to me? If you don't marry that woman, I will kick your... He said, you're better. She pulls the best stuff out of you. Who's your Caleb and Joshua in your life? Whose report will you believe? And in 2015, we did that. We renewed our vows in this church. George Hanna was in heaven, who was our church council chair. I surprised my wife. He walked her down the aisle, and we had about 150 folks from Garfield that threw confetti. Don't you cave in to the majority reports. Hang in there, friends. Apply what you know about God when fear shows up at your door. Dr. King used to say, fear knocked at the door, faith answered, there was no one there. And stand firm. Stand on God's promises. Abraham and Sarah, by faith, they obeyed when they were called. They set out not knowing where they were going. If they looked forward, because they looked forward to a city as foundations, whose architect and builder was God. They died in faith, not having received their promises, but from a distance they saw and greeted them. For people who speak in this way, make it clear that they are seeking a country. If they'd been thinking of the land they had left behind, they could have gone back like these people want to go back. But as it is, they desire a better country. Who's seeking a better place in this room? That is a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God. And he has prepared a place for them. Friends, hope fuels faith. Faith will help you face your fears. Amen? I want you to familiarize. They were in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. This is what it looks like. I've been to Israel 5 times. Some of you have traveled with me. It is arid wasteland. And they were 1 mile from this, the Fertile Crescent. Here's the question. Do you want the desert of Kadesh, or do you want God's promised land? Don't die in the desert. Don't settle. Don't go back to Egypt. Don't be paralyzed by fear. 1 mile from the promised land. Remember what God has done for you. And pray this psalm. I sought the Lord and he answered me. And come on, somebody, deliver me from all my fears. Look to him and be radiant. Radiant. Terry and I were radiant on that wedding day. My mom was crying. We were laughing. And later, guess what? My mom was laughing. And she entered into it. Trust in God and he will deliver you from all your fears. It won't happen all at once. I love altar calls. My life was changed in an altar call. But some people come to the altar and like, oh, I came to the altar, nothing happened. Guess what? Good for you. Joshua and Caleb had to wait 40 years before it happened. It doesn't always happen all at once. But live like it's happened already because Jesus Christ is raised from the dead. Joe's going to come us to this table. I've preached way too long. When I preach about my wife, that tends to happen. Sorry, not sorry. Anyhow, come to this table where Jesus says what? Remember what I've done for you, and let it empower you in the future. Amen? Praise be to God.